It's very nice to see you. So if you do want to have your camera on, please do put it on. See, up to you if you're busy finishing off your tea, because this is rather early. We recognise that as well. I think that we're all feeling a kind of combination of horrified and really helpless at what's going on in the Ukraine. And I have to pay tribute to Danny Maddox, who rang me up on Tuesday morning, basically saying we should get together. He's a regular community contributor in the flood support in his village, and he comes on the community networks, and he felt we ought to be proactive and get together and think about what we might do as a community in Lancaster, Morecambe and the districts. So I was happy to say, yes, Danny, even if it's only you and me, we'll get together and we'll discuss this and we'll think about things that we can do. Lots of people, of course, are already doing things, and I know there's already lorries that have set off to Ukraine with supplies, and people have been donating, and there's plenty of action, but this is really about what we might do as our district. And I was really touched by the fact that so many people immediately wanted to be part of this. I don't have the answers. I think what we're here to do is to listen and tease out between each other's what things we might do. I think somebody's got a microphone on, because I'm getting quite a big, I was getting quite a big echo, but not anymore. Thank you. I have tried. I thought it would be a good idea if I tried to find out what was happening nationally and regionally and in Lancashire before we started, just to see whether there was any positive news I could pass on to you. Spoke with our officers who support refugees, and they got in touch with the county council whose responsibility it is. What we got back from them is, as far as the Home Office goes, they haven't yet sent anything apart from a link saying that we were following the visa route, and so people are coming in on visas and they've extended the visas to families and so on. So all they've heard is that. They had heard this morning that a security minister had said they were thinking about having a scheme whereby people could use a spare room in their house to support some refugee, but as yet there is no official information to the county about that. But as soon as that happens, they will get in touch with us. So we are in close touch with county council. They're ready and waiting to give us information, but at the moment there isn't anything. When there is, we'll put it on our website. We'll put it out through social media so that you get to hear it. Apart from that, I've had a specific message from the Salvation Army, who said they couldn't be here. Gay Tonks, who I think is from Carnforth, has got in touch to say that the Salvation Army is working on the ground in both Ukraine and Poland, and would very much welcome your donations. And you can donate online. So the one other thing that I think people might like to take up is that we are twinned in the twin town system with a place called Llublin. And I think twin towns used to be very popular, and now we've sort of forgotten about them, really. But Llublin is in Poland, and we have links with it. And in fact, it turns out to be 70 miles from the border with Ukraine. And that's sort of the equivalent of from here to Manchester, just the other side of Manchester. So very close. And it's the first place, really, the first main place that people come to from that particular area of the border. It's a town that's a bit bigger than ours, but not significantly. And one of our officers who's got connections because of the twinning just dropped a note to her counterpart in the council at Llublin saying, you know, how are you? How are you getting on? Because we'd had a letter from the mayor who spoke to our mayor, who rather sent a letter to our mayor. I've got our mayor here. I don't know whether he wants to say anything about that? Mike?
Yeah, Caroline, I've received a letter from the Mayor of Lupin, and we have sent a reply back to him through Jenny at the council, and I think we've received another one today. I don't know if you've got that one.
I think we have seen it. Very formal thank you to you, Mike, for your letter.
Yeah, right.
But I think the one I think I'd like to read you is the one that Jenny Kay got back from her equivalent, the Democratic Services Officer in Llywelyn. This is what he said. All we are okay, working, helping those people, mainly women and children. All the men are left to fight there. Llywelyn is 120 kilometres from the border, the first big city on their way to life. All we help them. As always, we do if someone needs. Thank you for your support of your country and people. It is a lot for them, for us. Best greetings from still cold, Llywelyn. I thought it was very touching and kind of made me think, what would it be like here if we had hundreds of refugees appearing, coming through, stopping at our town, fleeing from a war. So I kind of wanted to say that we did have a real close connection with what was going on, much closer than I had really thought. So I felt like what we should do next is really just to be open to the floor, to listen to what people wanted to say and see whether we can think of some practical things that we might want to do. So at this point, if you'd like to contribute, I'd be happy to just put your hand up. If you can use the chat hand, which on your screen is that little round face with the hand next to it, or just wave at me if you don't want to use the chat hand. So is there anybody who would like to sort of make a suggestion? Mark, would you like to introduce yourself and then make your suggestion? Mark? Yes, Mark. I thought your hand went up.
Oh, no, it didn't actually, but I do have a few suggestions. So thank you for calling me. Well, I'm not sure if the refugees how many will make it here, but my role, I'm self-employed. I run a Airbnb, Booking.com accommodation, self-catering, and I'm already part of the Airbnb.org sort of facility for special accommodation, where you offer either discounted or free accommodation for people who need it urgently. So there might be an opportunity to tie in with that organisation. Everything's done on a formal basis and people are vetted. Our accommodations in Morecambe is sleeps up to 9 people, so it's quite a facility which I'm willing to provide. So that is one. There are formal routes to offer, and there's established routes to offer accommodation. The other suggestion I have is a number of organisations, once they've been contacted about their links with Russia or the Russian regime, they've stopped supplying the country. And so whether there could be a call out for try and understand the local suppliers or manufacturers or service providers and see whether there's a way of supporting them through restricting their businesses. And the other thing is to look at where we get our gas from, for example, and oil, and encourage people to use less gas if they can, alternatives. So it helps to bring down the price of gas as we sort of cut ourselves off from that source, and really reduce that demand, so that the people who really do need it, who don't have alternative methods to fuel their houses or businesses, hopefully it comes down in price for those. It reduces the demand. So that's I didn't really want to be first on the floor, but they're my sort of brainstorming suggestions.
Thank you, Mark, and it's great to hear that you're already part of the emergency accommodation sort of network, and that might be a route for people who did want to support, because it's a safe betting route. Okay. Robert, I think you were next.
Yeah, all I'm suggesting is that I haven't seen any blue and yellow ribbons for sale, and I'm just wondering if there's somebody here who could make those ribbons and give a small donation to the refugees. So if you know anybody who can make them, you know, we could buy off that person, and that person could send that money to wherever. I'm very disappointed that I haven't been able to buy, you know, all those ribbons. So thank you.
Thank you, Robert. That's an interesting idea. We do have one place at least that sells ribbon in town. Okay, that's a very interesting idea, Robert. Thank you. Elizabeth.
Hello, everybody. I've put my contact details on the chat. I'm from Raise Lancaster, which is a refugee advocacy information support. And we're part of City of Sanctuary, okay? We're one of the organisations within City of Sanctuary. I'm being bombarded today and yesterday with phone calls for people saying, I've got stuff to give, where do I take it? So I really would appreciate some information from anyone who's making a collection, sending a lorry, where to take it, because at the moment I'm having to say to people, I don't know, but I'll try and find out. So I've put my email address down there, and I've also put our telephone line and the days that our paid worker is in. So if you want to call that line or you want to email that, say, we're setting up a collection point. There is already one in Caton. There's a lorry going to Poland, to Lodz tomorrow, and another one on Sunday, full of things. And the people in Lodz, which is quite close to the border, are saying they need formula for babies, they need nappies, they need baby clothes, and they need sanitary equipment for women. There's a lot of women there with very, very young children, literally months or even weeks old. And also they'd like the kind of toys that are suitable for those children and for older children. So that's what, there's a Polish woman called Anna in Caton who's been putting these lorry loads together, and the people in Lodz are telling her, we have refugees here, we have an organisation, please, this is what we need. And I think that, given that it's mostly women and children, that's probably quite true. The second thing I wanted to say is that there are already Ukrainian people here. There are lots of surprising number of Ukrainian students at both universities. And if you come across anyone who's worried about their visa, please send them to see us. We have an immigration lawyer here in Lancaster. She, like everyone else, is waiting to hear what the Home Office is going to decide about whether the people who are here can stay. They're here on tourist visas, on student visas, on visiting family, and so on. And we really want to net all those people together and see what kind of volume of people it is for the immigration lawyer to deal with. So as soon as we know whether they can have their visas extended and so on and so on. At the moment, all that is really uncertain. So if you come across anybody who is Ukrainian and who is worried that obviously they can't go home, what are they going to do? When does their visa run out, and so on? Okay, and then when people arrive, which I imagine won't be quite yet, again, you can send them to us, and we'll provide immigration advice and lots of other support. So I just wanted to be here and sort of tell everybody about us a little bit, just so you could see we're on the ball and ready to help. But some information about anybody doing collections would be brilliant, because you know, we had 3 or 4 phone calls today, and all I've been able to say is we're not collecting and I don't know where to tell you to take it. So that would be very urgent, I think. Thank you.
Thank you. There is a list in the chat now, I think from, is it Duncan? Just a list there, Elizabeth, that you could look at where there are drop-off points.
Oh, thank you.
So that might be useful to you in responding to those phone calls. That's really useful. And thank you for alerting us to the Ukrainian students and obviously people who might be on visits, because I hadn't thought that there would be many, but it's interesting to know that, and to know that they've got
that list, Caroline.
Sorry?
Who sent that list?
So Duncan on the list.
Oh, Duncan Moore.
Is it Duncan? Oh, hi, Duncan.
But there's no list, there's just his name. I'm not getting any information.
It says Torres Home Primary School, Canal Turn Pub, Carforth Caravans, New Melbourne.
I can't see that on this.
Oh,
oh, wait a minute, I've got it. I've
got it. Good.
Thank you, that's lovely, thank you. Yeah.
All right, and that may be useful to other people.
That's very useful, thank you.
Okay, are there others who'd like to make suggestions?
Caroline, I think Danny Maddox was next on the list.
Hi, Danny.
Good evening, Caroline. I'd like to thank everyone who's turned up tonight, and especially yourself. As you say, I only phoned you on Tuesday and you've arranged all this in very short time. I'd just like to bring up 2 things for consideration. I thought the City Council handled the COVID pandemic very well. And I think one of the main reasons for that was the community connectors and already coordinated things. And I'd like to ask, would the community connectors be willing to coordinate and update the community response? And the other thing is, with us being twinned with Lublin, should we put all our efforts into finding out what Lublin thinks is needed and do a one-to-one with them, instead of having different responses of different people is directed to one place maybe?
Thank you, Danny. Thank you. Just to answer the community connectors, I think Caroline's on the line on this call. Caroline, I think we're talking about just putting out some information and so on. Would that be something we could do?
Yeah, I'm sure we can work with our comms team and internally with other officers as well to try and get some clear messages out for everyone. That'd be absolutely fine.
I think if there are things that you would like to get in touch with the community connectors about, is your email in the? I know. Yeah. Is it in the chat?
Yeah, Paula Doherty, Community Connector Officer, just popped it in the chat as well. So it's communityconnectors@lancaster.gov.uk. So please do get in touch.
So that'd be great. That's just as a place to email in and for information to go out from. Great. So the other suggestion from Danny is, should we support Lublin, especially because it's our twin town? I think it's a nice way to deepen a relationship. An awful time to have to do it, but it does make something of twin towns that I don't think we've ever thought of before in terms of really supporting each other. And maybe people would be able to focus on support for Lublin. I think that, I don't know if Jenny Kay's on the call here, and I was wondering, you've put your hand up. Have they told us about things they specifically need?
Hi, Caroline. Yes, I've had an email back from Evo, my contact in Lublin. I'll just get it up now. It's mostly medical supplies are needed: drugs, painkillers, sedatives, antiseptic fluid, ointment for burns, bandages, neck bandages, sterile gauze, splints, plaster bandages, long-term food and sanitary items. So they are quite specific with what they're short of.
And that it is quite a facer when they're talking about dressings for burns and so on. And you think of what it's telling you about the state of the people who are there, who are coming through. I wonder whether, in terms of actually responding to that, obviously we could respond in terms of giving money for them to be able to buy those things, but we'd have a need to do that way. And the other thing would be whether there is any collection that's going to Lublin, any of those connect collection points where we could find out whether they're going to Lublin. Is there anybody who knows whether any of those collection points are going to Poland and where? Doesn't look like we've got. Robert's got his hand up. Robert.
Yeah, just going by what I said before, if anybody can make those ribbons and pay a small donation, maybe that money could go to the place you mentioned.
It's hard work, isn't it, Robert?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, money to Lublin. Okay. Mark Davis, you had your hand up before. Did you take it down again because someone said your bit?
No, it was stray. Sorry. Stray hand.
Oh, it was a stray hand. Oh, that's a new one. Not a legacy one, a stray hand. Okay, Mike, your hand's up.
Yes, Carolyn, I've been listening to some of the speakers now, especially Elizabeth, on about the dropping off points and that. Danny Maddox about getting contact with Lublin. Robert about doing the ribbons and that. Robert, my wife said she'll do the ribbons if needed. Also, we have a lot of retailers in the Lancaster district. So is there any way we can put an appeal out to these retailers, whether it's clothes, food or anything, that could go to Lublin? Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. I think probably the first problem though might be to know we can get them to Lublin. Mark, your hand's up again.
Just to say, in the district, the district's electronic bus shelters are having signs put up to direct people to donate to the Red Cross if people wish to. So, so the sign says, "You get vital help to someone in Ukraine. Donate to our Ukraine crisis appeal today. It's redcross.org.uk, Ukraine." So probably that's the most direct way of getting donations there, and obviously the Red Cross will have sort of considerable experience of doing that, and that's something that's been promoted in our district. I presume it's a national campaign.
Thank you. Is that coming through Stagecoach because it's in the bus? No.
It's the provider. It's Clear Channel who it's an organisation called Clear Channel who provide the bus shelters.
Oh, right.
And
yeah.
it's the ones that have got the digital displays in.
Yeah. Okay. Just trying to pull this together. I think if we wanted to have a specific fund for Lublin, we'd have to create one. I did have a word with our community volunteer service who have operated our fund during COVID, and they did say they could pull together the kind of donate on your phone, donate online type fund for us. If idea they could set up a specific fund and obviously gather donations together there and donate directly to Lublin through our connection to the council, then we would know that whatever was donated was going to go directly towards the kinds of things like bandages and so on that they clearly have said they needed. I don't know, what do people feel about that as a possibility?
I think it's a good idea, Caroline.
Thank you, Robert. Anyone else got anything to add to that? Joanna, is your hand up? Yes.
Hi, Caroline. I just think we probably need to do a little bit of research about supply lines and procurement. There's certainly been kind of from humanitarian aid agencies on the ground saying that cash is usually the best donation because they can then spend it in the right places. If we've got specific requests to a specific place, then that's fantastic and we could probably mobilise that. But I think it's important for us not to spend lots of effort collecting things that may not be needed. For example, if people in Lublin need food, I wonder if it would be more expensive for us to fill a lorry via the food bank or something than it would actually to be purchased it nearer to Lublin. So maybe if Jenny could coordinate how that might work, then we can really be targeted, because it may be that money is the best solution here.
Thank you, Jenny. Could you get an email to Lublin and just ask them that tomorrow, perhaps? Oh no, not tomorrow. You're not working tomorrow, but
So I can do tomorrow online. Yes, that's fine.
Okay, thank you. Right. Okay, Pauline.
Hi everybody. So I'm Polish myself, so it's really difficult time for me and my friends, family back in Poland. And like Joanna said, I think like medication wise, it's not that easy, I think, because I know they need medication and all the bandages, but I think it's like donation something can be received, because like for example like tablets, you can receive them. So I think best will be some donations money wise, and if you need any help, support, I can look through, or any translation or volunteering, up for it, or I can even get some of my friends as well to help out. So and I'm Łódź is my hometown as well, so like you've mentioned before a lot, so that's very close to my heart as well.
Thank you, Pauline. I think that's a great offer about translation if we needed any support with that, and maybe if you could put your contacts into the chat. Could you do that? Are you able to do that? Yeah.
Would you need my email address, or?
I think email would be best. Yes.
Yeah, that's fine.
And that might be really helpful to us. Right. So I have got, if I try to sum up where we are, we don't know where we are on the accommodation front, but we did have Mark saying there are ways of making that safe. And I notice your hands up again, Mark. I'll come back to you in a moment. We have Robert suggesting we show our support through the ribbons and find out. Mike's his wife will help. And we also create.
Caroline, it's Robert.
Yes.
Sorry for jumping in. I'd like to say to Mike, thank his wife for offering, and I'll start the ball rolling. I'll give her £5 for 2 ribbons.
Okay, we've got a bargain here. I hope Mike with your wife. Okay.
Okay. The thought I had was just from the email that you had read out. It seemed that perhaps things could be lost in translation a little bit, and so trying to find an interpreter might help, might make things more accurate. And the other thought I had was that in terms of selling ribbons and things, a lovely idea that, and to have it for a particular location, I imagine will generate interest. And if it's explained that it's for a particular purpose, will generate interest. If you know lots of retailers, then it might be possible to utilise that as a distribution method.
Thanks, Mark. Yes,
Yeah.
that's a good idea.
I have to go mute now and go off. I've got a parents' evening to attend to, so I'll be off in a moment.
Thank you for coming along, and thank you for your ideas.
I won't disappear, but I'll rejoin later. Thank you.
Okay, so I think you've got to say we looked at yes, how we might support through kind of raising some money. Elizabeth has put that very practical information in for if and when we get some actual refugees, but also for people who are, in a way, they're not refugees yet, but they are here and they don't know what might happen to them. Really practical support in terms of having a lawyer who can help them. That's fantastic, and one for and I think a number of us to tuck away and remember if we come across Ukrainians who are concerned and upset about that. We've also established where you can take donations if you wish to various places which are listed in the chat, and presumably if there are any more things like that that people want to circulate, that information can go to our community connectors who will pass that out, and they've agreed to do that. We then talked about Lublin and supporting them specifically, both with the things they wanted and with cash donations. And the point was made by Joanna that may be, and by Paulina, that may be the best way to do this at the moment. And the question really is how we create a fund. As I say, I have spoken with CDS very briefly. Yak's here. So he might have something to say about this, about whether we could have a fund that we would promote just for Lublin. Yak, are you actually here? I saw you.
I am here. Yes, I'm very much listening on to everyone's comments and suggestions. But yeah, just to answer your point directly, Caroline, yeah, absolutely, we could set up a very safe, secure donation link and page, and also being a charity ourselves, we can get that sort of in-kind sort of match funding, that kind of I forget what it's called, it's been a long day now, but the government will sort of match some kind of donations for every sort of pound that is donated to this fund. So we could actually increase the level of funding that's available. So yeah, I'm happy to work with the connectors and yourself to describe that and sort of set that page up, if that would help.
That sounds great. That sounds like it would answer that need for a direct link and for people to know where to go to make a donation.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you.
No problem.
Okay, and apart from that, great contribution there from Yak, and I'm really glad, because I spoke to somebody else on your staff, that actually you were able to support that, because you did say, oh, you haven't spoken to Yak, but also that following on from that, we talked about actually good communication with Poland, and Paulina said that she would be willing to ensure that we had some facility for some translation if we needed it, which sounds really helpful to us. So I think that's where we've got to. Are there other points people would like to make about practical things you've thought of that maybe we haven't actually mentioned?
Caroline, there's one other hand up for Carolina. I think it's been up for a little while.
Excuse me, it's my phone.
Hi, thank you. I'll wait before I speak.
Sorry.
No, it's fine.
In my hurry, I hadn't muted my phone. Was it Paulina again?
No,
Yes.
no, my name is Karen. I'm just going to introduce myself. I work at the university. I'm also Polish. And I've had my hand up but the point that I wanted to make has already been made, and that is that I was wanting to speak strongly in favor of financial donations over sending supplies. And I think, it's wonderful that the collections that are going on, and that things are in motions, and those lorries will go out. But I've been following the situation in Poland, and it happens also to be my area of research. So what the humanitarian organizations are reporting, they're actually quite overwhelmed with material donations at the moment, and that requires a lot of work from their volunteers on the ground to sift through it and to kind of direct it properly. And if the funds are donated directly to NGOs, then they can purchase items locally, as Joanna said, and also, at wholesale prices. So that's one point. The other point is that indeed, and I can comes from my contacts with people who are on the ground, there is an incredibly dire area of need, and it's extremely difficult to address, which is why it is so dire, because it's actually not in Poland, but in Ukraine. And it is about transporting people, particularly people with disabilities and chronic illness who cannot move on their own, to evacuate them out of Ukraine and to take them to the Polish border. And so the issue is about drivers, vehicles, things like that. So I have been hearing about individuals raising funds to purchase a van to go out and to try to, bring people to the Polish border. So I don't know if we, as the community in Lancaster, can do anything about it, but it's just that is one of the most dire areas of needs. The second most dire is this whole issue with medical supplies, and not only going into Poland, but also going to Ukrainian cities in the West, which are currently experiencing also, we're talking about refugees, people who cross international borders, but there's also tremendous internal displacement going on. And so cities in the west of Ukraine are receiving tremendous numbers of people who are sheltering from the bombings there, because it is still relatively calm there. And then it can be a stopover point to go further west. So those are some of the things I've become aware over the last couple of days. And then finally, my last point about Lublin is just to offer my help and support as well. And I know Lublin, and I have some connections there. If that were helpful, please don't hesitate to call on me. I'll put my email in the chat as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that. And for that information about the dire need for transport. And I wonder, I'm not quite sure what we could at least talk to Lublin about, whether they're a lot closer than us, whether that is something they could get involved in. I think we would maybe ask Jenny whether that could be something that we speak to their mayor about, whether there's anything we can do to help on that matter. Okay, thank you. Are there any other people who would like to make a contribution? I'm just looking along the bottom of my screen just to check, because I missed hands before on there. I don't see any. I think we've had a lot of fantastic contributions, and it makes it suddenly aware perhaps that during lockdown we learned to do this, and that actually it's a hugely useful way of us as communities putting all our joint energies together and getting to know each other better as well. And so I'm really, really grateful to the people who've come along, people that I know and I know are involved in lots of ways, and people who are new to this. Thank you for your time. I think that possibly we're at a stage where isn't anything else that people want to say, I don't want to stop anybody who's got something they'd like to add or feels that they haven't had an opportunity to contribute. We said we would be practical in this. Only one person has approached the notion of what do we do about Russia, and with the notion of, well, can we talk to supply chains and suppliers about whether they would get involved in what's essentially boycotting Russian firms and Russian supplies. This is kind of more in a campaigning than that straightforward practical stuff we've been talking about with Lublin and Ukraine. Are there any people who would like to make a point about that we have kind of, we haven't approached that? Is there anyone who wants to make a point about anything that we could do or should do in terms of trying to deter Russia from what it is doing?
Caroline.
Philip.
Who's Philip?
Philip's put his hand up. Can I go to Philip first and then come to you, Alistair? Is that okay? Philip?
Hi, yeah, sorry, I don't know if my battery will hold out, but just touching on the point of if there's anything we can do with Russia. I don't know what we can do with Russia, but just one thought that it provoked in my head was, I don't know whether we have a Russian community around Morecambe, Lancaster. I think lots of people, including our government, are obviously keen to show that we are not anti-Russia, we are not anti the Russian people, and we believe that this is a Russian war. So I was wondering if there's something we could maybe do, if there is a Russian community around, to approach those people in a friendly, formal way, and give them some kind of way to be united with us in the condemnation of this atrocious war.
Thank you, Philip. I think that's a very good thought, that we should ensure that people who are from Russia just are supported as well. I don't know whether, I'm not sure how we contact that community, but possibly through the university. Alistair, did you have something that would contribute to this?
I was going to say something very similar to what Philip just said. There is a Communities Together group. I mean, it is at the moment a wee bit limited, but given that that's a group in the Lancaster district that's focused on bringing communities together, and there's a meeting coming up, maybe that's something that they could focus on. That's their remit, bringing communities together. I think I probably just want to say a little bit more than Philip in respect that
please.
It might be that there may be some people in the government that are suggesting that we shouldn't focus on ordinary Russian people, and particularly Russian people in this country. But there's an alarming rise in rhetoric that is focused on ordinary Russian people. I mean, I don't know if people saw today, we had a Labour MP in Parliament suggest that John Terry should be condemned because he put a picture of himself standing next to Roman Abramovich. I'm not big on football, and that disturbed me. So I think when it comes to what we can do locally around discussions, sanctions, I think we probably need to be very careful and give a lot of thought to this, because I mean I've lived at a distance, and we've been fortunate that it's always been at a distance through a number of wars, and xenophobia rises, and that there are deep and dark things that are happening not just in Ukraine. So I guess probably it's a waffly way of saying, if we're going to talk about sanctions and Russian companies, then if it's a local, then we need to be engaging with the Russian community if there is one locally. That's all I would say.
Yeah. Thank you, Alistair. And I think we should know that whether there's a Russian community locally anyway, just as I was woefully ignorant of that there were many Ukrainian people locally. And yes, there is a Communities Together meeting on Monday, and this is something that I will bring to the Communities Together meeting since I'm attending, and ask them about that.
I mean, there are other conflicts that are going on in the world, you know, and so I think probably it needs to be discussed in its wider sense. There are other people that are experiencing illegal occupations. So I'd hope we you know, if we're going to go down the path of having a Lancaster-wide response, I would hope that that would be consistent and coherent when it comes to humanitarian crimes.
Thanks, Alistair. You always remind us of the wider matters and how we should be very inclusive. So I think that's taken a step forward in terms of our own community, a very practical step forward that we can and definitely should do in terms of ensuring that we can connect with our a community, a Russian community. I'm sure there is one within the Lancaster area. Are there any more points people would like to make? I'm not seeing any. I'm not seeing any hands on my screen, but it's not proving too accurate. It's showing all the hands. So if there's anybody else who would like to add to the conversation, please do wave at me or put your screen on and wave at me in order that I can see you. I'm not seeing any hands. Thank you very much for that discussion. Thank you very much for all those really practical points. I think we're a very practical district. We like to do things, and it's great when we see how much power we have to do them together. We will make sure via the community connectors that we report back and that we put things out through social media so that a greater, wider audience can actually to know this. So I'm going to say thank you very much for this. Thank you again to Danny for actually bringing this into being with me, and to the community connectors for creating the meeting and for carrying on the work, and to Jenny, who's just popped up here, because I know that she will carry on that conversation with Lublin, which will, I'm sure, deepen our relationships and make sure they get some practical help with the clearly difficult, very, very difficult situation that they're dealing with. Thank you again. I hope you enjoy the rest of your evening.